Hey guys, Dave from Nerdarchy, for nerds by nerds, hanging out with
Nathan Nerdarch.
Nerdarch is Ted.
From Sweden. We bring you Triniton, the game for children, newbies, and veterans alike. Jump down the description below where you can find Nerdarchy the newsletter, game weekly tips, as well as learn how to game with Nerdarchy. So first of all, I want to welcome you guys to our first sponsored review. Today we are going to be reviewing Triniton. It is an adventure, a role-playing game, a soundtrack. There's a prequel. It's got a card game component to it. The writer and founder is Christian
Alin? I'm not certain how you're gonna pronounce it.
Yeah, he's out of Sweden, so we might be butchering that a little. I'm not sure. Even though I am mostly Swedish, I'm a bit rusty on my Swedish. And if my grandmother was still alive, I could ask her about the pronunciation and the name, but I cannot. Not without Speak with Dead. Might be a little morbid. We just recently toured through this. Christian sent it to us all the way from Sweden. It kind of showed up my doorstep. I had these weird packages with all kinds of weird stamps on them. I'm like, what is this? And then when I opened it up, one of the things which I don't have with me was the shirt, which I think I lost. And by lost, I mean my wife stole it and I will never see it again. It has this way cool art from the Triniton book on it, and it's super soft cotton. So yeah, it's pretty much gone forever. I wore it once, and I will probably never see it again. But the shirt was awesome. Thank you.
The cool thing about this is it's a very, as it says, beginner-friendly RPG.
I think we should start with a concept, right?
Oh, sure.
So I think my take is the concept is this is a way to introduce people to RPGs and do it with an epic story. Whether you want to use their very simple rules light system that they provide, or you want to bolt it onto any game that you're already playing, whether it's Dungeons and Dragons, Fate, or two of them that they call out. But you could do it with anything, really. Actually, Cypher system would be ideal for this game.
Exactly.
Yeah, they're very freeform with the level of interaction of the people with the rules and what you guys want to do as the individual players and the GM. So
you get 132 pages. About 40 of those pages are how to play the game their way, with the rules simple. Mm-hmm. And in addition to that, some like add-on type stuff.
239.
Oh, 239. My bad.
239 pages in the Triniton role-playing book, as well as there are other supplement things that can go along with it. There is, as Dave mentioned, the card game. There is a soundtrack. There's also the prequel book to go along with it, which gives you a very cool lead-up story presented in two different formats. Now, in one of the trailer videos that we saw a man playing this game as an actual gameplay with a child that could be no more than 3 to 5 years old. So if this is that beginner friendly, that's pretty cool. But if you've got someone who is just learning to read, the prequel is written in two different versions. As it says, it's in basic English, but is also in VDW, very difficult words, for ones that you would buy in a bookshop. So I kind of thought that was interesting. But it's definitely more verbose, and I'll kind of give you the difference. The regular version is space, full of life and motion, but just about to face total destruction. Or you can turn to the more verbose, which is a whole galaxy teeming with life and motion upon the brink of total and unforgiving destruction. So it's like, all right, that's kind of cool. Now my son, he might have issues with the words teeming and unforgiving, but he could read the basic without a problem.
So I'm not going to go through the whole deck for you guys, but as you can see, this is a variation of a standard deck of playing cards. But it is different enough to go, they didn't just take a deck of playing cards and throw it in there. There's special cards, there's new imagery on the cards that would correlate to your standard playing deck. It's pretty cool. There's a lot of cool art. If you like the anime style art and that comic booky art, you're gonna enjoy the art.
Right.
Yeah, one of the most interesting things I found when reading through this was the adaptation of different modes of playing and different types of games that can all be added in. So, I mean, they've got the deck of playing cards. You actually use that at least in 2 times in the actual book to deal with a problem. And they say you can use dice, but you can also... There's different sets of how much do you want to get in depth and how much... there's lots of optional rules. Pretty much the only rule is roll a d6, and 1 through 3 is a failure. 4 through 6 is a success. And from there, that's like the most simplistic type of rule, which is probably what the 3 or 4-year-old was playing with her father. And from then, you can just keep going and getting more and more complex rules. And you can add all these. There's tons of different options to add on that either ramp up the tension in the game, or change the way you're thinking about the rules in the game system, like by including the card decks. So
even the die 6 has a gradation to it. So even though 1 through 3 are failures, they're not the same kind of failure. And 4 through 6, again, all successes, but they're not the same kind of success.
Right.
This game really does make me think a lot like of a cypher system type game, where you're not using a lot of different types of dice, and it's very, very rules light. Fate is the same way. This is actually a step down from either of those, even once you add on all the optional rules. So if you have someone that's very new to role-playing games, or you want to start role-playing games for the first time, this is actually not a bad place to start at all. It's also good for if you're playing with, as we said, young children. This is real easy for them to grasp. They just get a die 6, chuck it. That's pretty easy. There is a handful of pre-gen characters that come with this role-playing game / event campaign.
And that's the thing, that while the book is solid and thick, it actually does have all of the rules. It has an adventure built in. It has the story. It has, as you said, the pre-generated characters, as well as a handful of different cutout accessories that you can wind up using. You've got
crystals.
You've got the ability to have these things that are going to be in your game that you could either just cut straight out of the book or photocopy and then be able to have those things to hand out to your players.
Also, one of the things that we found out just before we started the review is, and I think it's worth mentioning, it was featured on both Geek and Sundry's website
and Geek Dad.
It's 2 very reputable sites.
one of the things I wanted to point out for when it's talking about like being beginner friendly, another interesting thing I saw, which I haven't seen before. It's like how to improvise kind of plot. So you have the hero, and you have what's here, so their objects and their abilities and things, and then what's in the scene, and then the vision, like kind of like where you want to go with it. So it's nice because it shows you like where your starting point is. Well, how do you improvise? Well, what do you have available to yourself? What could you do with that? And then what's the end goal of that? So it helps, especially with people that haven't played any RPGs before. It's a good, like, here's step 1, here's step 2, here's step 3, without saying, like, okay, if you have a sword, you can swing it, kind of thing. There's other things you could do with it, and there's also other things all in the scene around you, as well as your own ability that you can deal with. And it really gives that kind of open-ended, well, do you want to talk to them? Do you want to run from them? Do you want to, like, hear your options?
It's a play aid for a new role player, for a beginner, or a young person, that you can put in front of them, then they can basically adapt it to their character, and then there's the ability to adapt it to the different situations that they're in. Now, granted, like, this would be a lengthy process, especially if you have multiple players, but if you're playing one-on-one with one player, and it is, a child or someone that's very new, this would be a very great tool for teaching them how to play role-playing games from the role-playing aspect and from the idea of improvising and going, oh no, you have a plethora of choices. You can pretty much do whatever you can think of.
Now, the cool thing about their characters is, as you can see here, the characters sheets are incredibly light in comparison to what you might be used to with some of your games. So, like, here you've got the Mediator Kelmet. It's got a quote. It's got an about. It says, Kelmet is always calm and is ready to help create a future for everyone to live long and prosper in. Power. As a mediator, Kelmet has an aura that slows time around him without affecting himself. If he focuses, he can just decrease the aura to 1 meter from his body or extend it up to 3 meters in all directions. Contributes. Mediators and their ability to solve conflicts make them popular in all parts of Arbes. His high standing enables him to arrange almost anything an audience with the rulers, need to break up a civil war, and then he has got a personal quest. The mediators feel the tensions between buildings and are proud that Kelmet will play an active part to bring peace and stability back to Arbas. And that's a character sheet. That's everything for that character. I think that's pretty neat to be able to just be like, all right, summed up in 4 small little sections, and you're ready to go. There's no stats. There's no hit points there.
What can you do with this product? Here's what you can do with this product. One, you could buy it and you could run this really rules light, watered down system that effectively will give you a role-playing game. You have a role-playing game to play.
Yeah.
You can run the whole adventure using that system.
Yep.
Perfect, right? Mm-hmm. Or it talks about how to use other systems to run that same campaign with it. It essentially gives you not just the campaign arc, the story, and a very long, lengthy module, but what I also looked at, I saw, this is also a game world you could play in.
Yes, and they give you enough information. This is all the information on the different adventures and encounters and everything that goes on in the game world. And this is all the talking about improv, talking about being a beginner, how to get someone to play a game, getting people. So everything before everything after this little section here. So it's quite substantial. From page 51 onward, you're getting encounters, ideas for different combat encounters or diplomatic encounters, different things happening in the world, and you're also every little bit. They don't cram a whole bunch of information in you all at once. They don't say like, here's all the cultures and stuff. Every time something is important, they bring it up. So it's really nice that you don't have to read the entirety of it before you even start back at the beginning with it. So it is a nice kind of grab the adventure, go with it with the characters, and then you can go on to the next segment based on how it turns out.
You also have the ability to mine it for specific things that you want to add into whatever other game that you're particularly running. It's a great source for NPCs. It's a great source for themes that you might want to run. I found that even just the artwork alone was inspiring of ideas.
And there's subsystems in the game that could be actually added to kind of any game.
Now, the beginning of the book talks about, as you mentioned, using it for different games. There's the too easy version, which is designed as we saw in the previous video for like a 3 to 5 year old. You could do the easy version, which is dice and pressure. You could use the normal version, and that's all in here. But then you could add, as it calls, the advanced system, which adds other rules to it, like Fate or Fate Accelerated. Then you have, as it calls, the hard version, which requires dice beyond your standard D6, which would be systems such as D&D, World of Darkness, Warhammer 40K, or something called Sengoku.
That might be there's a Swedish game that they've referenced.
Okay.
Elsewhere in there as well.
Mm-hmm. And then whatever MPL is, I'm not certain what that is. No, not MLP.
It's My Little Pony.
That'd be MLP, not MPL.
It might be a typo because they reference My Little Pony elsewhere in the book.
Oh, do they really?
They absolutely do.
Well, anyway, I think there's a lot of cool stuff here in this book. It was definitely, as I said, numerous times over, the artwork is fantastic.
Yeah, that was one of the strongest things. Again, like if you want to play a role-playing game with younger children, I think this has a lot to offer. And a lot of different ways to do it. Also, the story that they provide is actually really good as well. It's definitely like, this is the campaign you want to do if you want to have a world-ending... you don't want to have your world end, but you want your adventures to stop a world-ending event. The concept that they come up with is really cool. I don't want to give it away. I don't want to give spoilers to what the actual adventure is, but it takes you from the beginning where it begins to hint at bygone ages where something really bad was averted, and then unbeknownst to that time period, something was left over. That they didn't completely solve the problem. They just kind of made it go away to a certain extent. Mm-hmm. And later on, throughout this adventure, it starts revealing the history and what happened and what you have to stop now, which is really cool. And also, there's a whole section towards the back here that really goes into more detail on how to use the other games and how they would interact. Like, they reference Jedi and they reference Batman, and yeah, the idea that you're maybe one world within a multiverse of worlds.
It gave me one of the overarching things that I liked was it gave me that Planescape feel. Like it felt like a lot of like the Planescape or dimensional travel kind of feeling to it, just because of the extraordinary, strange things that are occurring and have happened in it, and the type of monsters. Some of them are pretty crazy.
So what I was describing is under the appendix, the other universes, right? And that's why us? How did we get here? Same language. Why don't they fear us? I'm Batman.
I'm Batman.
Timeline. Are all quests suited? How does magic work? Can I contact the other side? What year is this? What system to use? But what about the awesome feature X in the system? What happens if I die? Should we play seriously or silly? What level should we start at? So it goes into each one of these sections. Basically, is a breakdown of how to play this campaign, whether you're using the rules that are existing here, or you're using rules from another game system, and how to integrate them, and how that's all going to play nicely with each other. So they give you guidance with that. There is basically they put together almost in like a Wikipedia type format about the world and how things work. The world itself is weird in the sense that it's very small. Like the whole campaign world, they talk about it only taking weeks to travel from one end to the other. Wow. So it's very small and condensed. But
you're really fast.
Or you're really fast. But the idea is also this stuff is all kind of big. And when you get into the story reason why the world is small, that probably makes more sense. They have this cool Independence, also a cool relationships table, which it almost kind of makes me feel, it gives me a little bit of nostalgia with second edition. Middle Earth did the same thing.
Yes,
and they did a similar table as well. They kick off the appendix with advanced game mastering, and this is where it really kind of talks about different play styles, and again, more of how to mix the different systems in and out of the game.
Okay.
And this is where I'm pretty sure this is also where I found the My Little Pony reference as well. So it really is supposed to be open to whatever you want it to be.
Like I said, sweet art.
Yeah, I figured should probably show some of that off.
Now, I would say while it's open to be attached to any type of game system, I would say the ones that are more Fate oriented. I think I haven't played Cypher, so I can't speak about that. But I have played Fate Accelerated, and just reading through it, I'm like, oh, this would go great with Fate.
It would go well with Fate.
My issue, the thing I was getting to, while it says it can go with D&D, I'd be a little concerned about the amount of work I'd have to do to make character, like the NPCs I'd have to deal with, and how much work I'd go into doing statistics on creatures. So that's kind of like me, but I mean, we reskin stuff all the time, so I think that wouldn't be too difficult. I would think that would be a little daunting to, if you're new to D&D, to try and apply this to D&D. I think it would be better to use the system that it shows in it beforehand. I don't know. It depends on your level as a GM, how involved you'd want to get in it, I think.
No, I agree with you. Your level of experience is definitely going to affect how you would want to run this and how you want to play this, as well as the level of experience and maturity of your players. Mm-hmm. So there was one thing that kind of had a beef with. So the really cool thing is there's a bunch of cutouts in the appendix that you can cut out, and most of them work, but there's one page where it backs up to this sweet art that you have to ruin in order to get the characters. And there's a couple places where you have cutouts early on in the book. Throughout the book, where it clearly shows it as a cutout, but you can't really cut it out without messing up what's
on the other side.
Yes. So that literally that's my biggest beef.
The character sheets are one of them. It has stuff on the opposite side. So I think in those situations, you either print out of the PDF, or you wind up just saying, all right, well, I've got the print book, I'm just gonna photocopy these and cut it.
They have copy-friendly sections and like pretty much everything in the appendix.
Well, that's the other thing too. Like, if you buy the physical copy through RPG Drive-Thru or Drive-Thru RPG, one of those.
The link's down below.
Yeah, you buy the physical copy. It's like $1 more to get the PDF.
Totally worth it.
So in that case, it doesn't matter because you're just going to print out the pages you need and cut them up.
Right.
So you're not going to have to hack apart your book. Literally for the extra $1, it's worth that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We mentioned the card games. In here, there's 2 different instances of the game. The card games that are played, they're 2 different games, and they describe them as being a combination of solitaire and memory. Layout to one of the games that shows how to arrange it. Skills required. Can swap and turn cards.
There you go.
There you go. Playtime 10 to 30 minutes. So I think that's kind of cool. Like, once you figure out these games, you can basically incorporate them into other scenarios as well. Maybe if you're creating your own campaigns, your own stories, you can take them and use them.
Design your own for your game so that they have another puzzle to solve.
And you have these cool cards, so you might as well use them as much as you can.
Yeah, that gives you a different dimension for solving a puzzle or disarming a trap. Similar to what's that game that has the Tower of Jenga that you Terror?
Dread.
Yeah, Dread. It has that that different mechanic for it. So that's another thing I like about it is the variety of ways it makes you think about what game you're playing and how you're playing the game.
In the second one that I just flipped to and showed you guys, activating the PSR machine. This card game, Human Error, is the heroes trying to activate the Tashish Khan's, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right or not, machine and imploding the core, right? So you're trying to break it, blow it up. Players 1 to 10, playtime 10 to 30 minutes. Skills required, can sort cards by value. And then, it goes into the different ways, and you're going to actually use this game to shut down the machine, blow up the machine. Well, you could take that and you could turn that into different things in your D&D game or whatever you're playing. Instead of having someone just make a roll to disarm a trap, you can come up with a card game to do it. Now, your group may or may not enjoy that. It's going to add more time to the game. So you're going to have to decide if that would be something you'd be interested in doing with your game. Or there might be other situations where everyone is able to actually participate in the game, and that would be the best way to use it. Or like puzzles or traps that everyone has to work together in order to solve. And maybe if they have the certain skills, then you let them do like redos and stuff like that within the game itself, so that you can actually incorporate the game mechanics from your character sheet into this card game.
So all in all, I think it's a beautifully packaged set of rules and adventure and accessories. Yeah. What do you guys think? Have you checked this out? If not, go to the description below. Go check out Triniton. It's really cool. While you're down there, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
Or you can check out the article at nerdarchy.com.
So until next time, stay nerdy.